Hello and welcome to another episode of Good for Profit. I'm your host Mo, and this is the podcast where we speak with startup founders, change makers, and investors, people who are building businesses that are both good for the world and good for profits. Today's guest with us is Ray. Ray has built a content agency called DSLX, and his journey with dyslexia has been an interesting one, and he's actually incorporated a lot of what he's gone through into the agency. He's a true leader with heart, and he's built an agency that works with neurodiverse people and people from ethnic minority and other minority backgrounds to bring them into the world of copywriting, show them that you can create content and you can be incredible content creators and help businesses in many, many ways. The culture that he's created in the company sounds really cool. It makes me definitely want to go and check out the team and just join them on one of their offsites. And we also talk a lot about his journey through yoga and how some of those lessons translated into business, as well as his views on AI and how that's shaping the world of content. I don't want to give away too much. I've already said too much. And so without further ado, the conversation with Ray. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Hello, welcome, Ray.
Perfect. Hello.
How are you, my friend? Tuning in from Barcelona, right? We were just talking about that now.
Yeah, doing well. It's roasting, but I'm surviving, and I've locked myself away and I got the blinds down, so I should be okay.
Wow. Well, how hot is it right now where you are?
I think it's like 30.
Okay, wow.
And this is the hottest part of the day, and my windows are south facing, so it's like an oven, but I'll survive.
Sorry to hear. Yeah, I'm out in Abu Dhabi right now. I'm going to be heading back to the UK in the next few days, and it's been 40 degrees ish here the whole time I've been here. And yeah, your body kind of gets used to it, but it's still very, very hot. So
yeah, you just got to drive everywhere, right? You can't walk anywhere. Yeah.
Oh, and you actually can't walk anywhere anyway, unfortunately, in this place. You can't cycle or walk anywhere, which is something I'm very much missing. So I'm looking forward to being back in the UK with that.
When are you heading back?
I think in about a week or so. So I haven't just done it yet. Is that whiskey, by the way, you're drinking there by any chance?
No, it's a nice glass though. It's got like a yellow tint at the bottom, so it looks like I'm drinking alcohol every time, but I've got a jug of water next to me.
Okay, because I thought, it's 1 p.m. where you are, isn't that right?
2, yeah.
Okay, it's 2 p.m. There you go. Yeah, if you're having whiskey at 2 p.m., we can dig into the stress that's causing that, my friend. But
that's another podcast for another day.
For sure. Ray, thank you for coming, man. I've been looking forward to having this conversation. We were supposed to have this conversation a little while ago, but couldn't make it. And now we're finally here, and that's really good. You are the founder of DSLX, rather. And I remember you telling me a bit of a story behind that, but can you maybe tell our listeners a bit about the story behind the agency and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I've always been in content and social media my whole life, and at the time of the pandemic, I was working for a co-working space called One Cowork. And the idea was to help them launch 25 spaces across Europe. And then the pandemic hit. Obviously, co-working wasn't really a thing. And so my hours got cut and I picked up freelance writing on the side to kind of like make ends meet. And then I walked out of the pandemic after 4 months with 4 or 5 clients, earning more than my full-time job. And I thought, actually, maybe this is something that I should explore. So I was freelance writing for a year. And after that year, demand kept coming. People kept emailing me saying, Ray, I heard you're really busy, but can you take on another client? And I was thinking, who's saying I'm busy? I don't know. I think I'm okay. But so I was getting referred and I said, okay, this is bigger than just me. And so I said, if I'm going to do something, I may as well do something good with what I'm going to do. And I launched DSLX. And DSLX is a content agency. And our mission is to empower dyslexic and minority group writers to write.
That's brilliant. Why did you feel like you needed to do something good? Why not just, make money and have a good time?
Yeah. What are you leaving behind then? It's just like, for me, if I'm going to do something, I may as well do something that I'm passionate about and that I really enjoy and make an impact with. And yeah, sure, I could have just built an agency and earned money and lived my life. But then when I go, that's it. It stops there. So I wanted to rally the troops and build something bigger than just me that can live on and live a legacy to continue helping people. And hopefully that it started here, and it started with good intent and will continue to do so after I pack it up.
We all will pack it up someday. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I sometimes wonder where that comes from. I've met tons of people who kind of also want to make an impact and do something before they go. And yeah, it's but not everyone thinks like that in a way. You know, some people just think,
Yeah.
well, I'm here now. I'm just gonna have a good time, and then that's it. And when I die, I
Yeah.
die. And yeah,
You know, doing something good with what I'm doing has in turn helped me in so many other ways, and it's helped the business thrive. But that wasn't these other ways I didn't even realize as I was building the business. I just thought, how can I build a business that I'm passionate about, that represents me and helps other people like me? And that's how DSLX came about. And I played on me being dyslexic and thought, I never want another dyslexic writer to feel like they can't write. And then that grew to, I never want another minority writer to feel like they can't write. And that minority, I think I wrote an article on it a few years back, but there's like 13 areas of diversity. And I never want any one of these people, no matter where they're from, what they may be working with, their postcode, their culture, their religion, their age, their gender, their sexuality. I never want any of these people to feel like they can't enter the world of writing to some extent. So I thought, okay, I know my minority area, and that's me being dyslexic. So let's lead with that. Let's lead with what I know. And then let's back it up with everything else that I would hope that we can make an impact with as well.
that's really cool, and it's a bit of a bold move for somebody who knows that they're dyslexic to think, you know what, I'm going to go into copywriting.
Yeah.
I imagine you probably might have faced some challenges along the way, kind of around that. Are you happy to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. So I've always loved storytelling. Like since the day I could hold a pencil, I was writing stories, and I was always writing. I was always creating stories, and I never understood why I was getting so frustrated at not being able to do that successfully in school, like academically well. My stories would be great and exciting and have good characters and plot twists and all of this, but
I kind of want
spelling,
to read some now.
punctuation, huh?
I kind of want to read some now.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a work of fiction out as well, and I
Really?
published that
Oh,
a few years back, and I love writing fiction. I love writing stories. It's always been something I've been so passionate about. But the academic side of writing these stories has never been easy for me to flow with. So I used to get really frustrated at why I couldn't do that, and why I was always being graded so poorly. Yet my teachers would say, like, this is a great story, but poorly delivered, or lazy, or silly mistakes. And I was getting all of these critiques on my work from maybe 12, 13, from secondary school. And I didn't know I was dyslexic at the time, but I was getting repeatedly more and more frustrated with not being able to deliver what I had in my head onto paper. And, when I went into exams, I would run out of time in exams. My hand would ache in written exams after 20 minutes, because dyslexics really push the pencil down on the paper to try and form the shapes that you want to form. It's not like, I don't know, writing for us isn't as easy. And so I missed out on being able to have extra time on exams, which could have massively helped me if I'd known I was dyslexic. And I could have done a lot better in those exams if I'd known I was dyslexic. I could have had someone sit next to me and literally read the questions out to me in my exams, but I didn't, because I didn't know. So I had to read the questions, and the amount of times I reread those questions, and nothing processes, and we just learn differently, and we absorb information differently. And so I really struggled all throughout secondary school. And it's only when I got to university, I went to a creative arts university, and I went to Falmouth in the UK. And a lot of creatives are dyslexic. So you had the option to take a dyslexic test as a creative, and it was free. And it was, I think, like a 3 to 4 hour test, reading, writing, visual puzzles and problem solving. And they identified me as severely dyslexic because basically what you excel in massively in one area, you massively are underperforming in another. So my short-term memory was in the bottom 2% of the country. So it was like I had to do tests that they said, okay, repeat this number back to me, 67. And I had to go 70, and then I forget the next number. So my short-term memory is awful. So imagine like trying to retain information in class, teachers getting frustrated with me because they keep having to repeat themselves, trying to read a test paper and just it not sinking in. And then my visual problem solving area of my mind was in the top 2% of the country. So visual puzzles, I was able to look at different pieces and say, yeah, goes here, 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 here. And it works really well. And that gap that you have in the middle is the severity of your dyslexia. So I had this 3-hour test, was identified as dyslexic. And after that, I got a ton of resources, tools, a weekly editor, a weekly coach to help me teach my mind how to learn differently and how to learn as a dyslexic writer. And then I saw opportunity again. But everywhere before that was just a constant battle.
Wow, dude, that's yeah, that must have been really frustrating because you know that you're good at something and you know that you have passion for it, but for some reason it's just the outcome isn't receiving the kind of reward that you'd expect it to by those who supposedly know their stuff, i.e. the teacher in this case.
Yeah, it was extremely frustrating. And I was a problem child in school, in primary school. You know, always
focus on
completing
attention,
tasks first, tapping on the shoulder of the teacher, demanding attention, help, 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 help. And I was always told, Ray, there are 30 other kids in this class. You need to wait your turn. But 30 other kids didn't learn like I learned. So the typical school system wasn't a fit for how my mind works.
And this was in the UK, right? You studied in your school. Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in East London, and then we moved out to Essex when I was 13, 14. And then I studied in Essex until university.
Cool. And it's crazy. I also think schools need to be better equipped with this stuff. I actually remember doing a test. So I came to the UK when I was 12, right? So I don't know. I think this just may be because when you come over as an immigrant, that is something that they do with you. They make you do a bunch of tests to make sure that you can do whatever. So I remember when I first arrived, I went to a tuition center before going to school. And the part of the reason for that was to kind of find me a space in the schools that were our choices for the borough that were around us, but also to assess where I am with English, maths, and so on. Got out of there pretty quickly, thankfully, and then got into a really good school. And I don't know whether this is because it was a really good school or whether it's just something that they do with everybody. But one of the things I had to do was to do a long test, but I had no idea why. So I wasn't given any instructions around why I'm doing this test or what it is or whatever. And I remember doing it. I did it a couple of times as well while I was in school. I think I did it like once every 3 years or something like that, something along those lines. And as a result of doing that, they gave me extra time, 25% extra time in exams.
Nice.
But I still to this day have no idea why they made that decision or what that test was. So there was something there, but I don't know what.
I don't know what it was either.
but exactly, and I have no idea. Yeah, and so, but the thing I'm trying to say here is, I don't know whether this was because, number one, as an immigrant, they may expect, okay, there might be problems. Let us kind of poke into that. So there's just like a standard of, okay, anybody who comes in, they kind of have to do this. Or it's because the school was in a good borough. But I don't think it would have been because the teachers are trained to spot things. And that's the bit that I wanted to get to, because like the third should really be the way they do this stuff, rather than just kind of blanket give everybody who has X case this, which is a great thing. I'm not complaining at all, by the way. Like, thank you for the 24 hours extra time. I needed I needed it in English more than anything else, to be honest with you. Like science and maths, I was fine, but it's English that I really needed it with.
Right.
But teachers, as far as I understand, at least back then, just weren't trained to spot what is what in a classroom. Do you know anything about this? Have you looked into this? Do you know if it's still the case or if it's changing or anything like that?
Yeah, 100%. And I'm totally agreed that I think we're more or less the same age. And when we were growing up, teachers, yeah, they weren't trained to spot these things. And parents didn't really know much about it. Now, knowledge sharing is a lot better now. Awareness is a lot better now. And teachers are more aware now. But to get that qualification test in the bag and to be able to win extra time, I think you either have to demand that you have the test or you have to be offered the test. So if you don't know or if you don't suspect, you can't ask for that test. And if the school does not specialize in dyslexia or in something else where you would be able to win that extra time for exams or win that extra support in the classroom, you won't get it. And there are still a lot of schools that don't offer it. And sure, teachers may spot it, but teachers have also got to look after however many other people in the classroom. So it's not all on them to spot. I think that's the biggest struggle now, and it's part of the mission that I'm trying to deliver with DSLX is I'm trying to build dyslexia awareness in schools at a younger stage. And that can come through going straight to the teachers, going to the children, or going to the parents. And I've done a few remote assemblies where I've sent videos in of talking about my dyslexia journey, and they've shared it with the whole school. And I've shared what I've achieved as a dyslexic writer. And that if you write as a dyslexic, you can still write and you can still deliver. You just have to learn how to deliver and how to write for your mind. And so I'm trying to push dyslexia awareness into schools, to parents, and to kids straight up, so that anyone can spot it and anyone can ask for that test and win that extra time, that or extra support. Like having someone sit with you in exams is so crucial to helping you digest the information on the exam paper and actually deliver on that exam. So I'm trying to build awareness around dyslexia in schools so people know that there is a test, that there is benefits of taking that test if you identify what you think you might have, but they need to look out for the signs and identify them to be able to ask for that test in the first place.
Yeah, and that's so awesome that you're doing that work. How have you found how have you found how have you found the reception to that? So like, how are when you approach a school, I'm presuming these are state schools or private schools or a bit of both.
I think they've all been state schools so far, yeah.
How are you finding the response to that from the school side?
Really fantastic. And they wanted me to come in, but most of this was during the pandemic or the short aftermath of that. And me living in Barcelona is a little bit more complicated for me to be able to plan
Will you
school
fly
visits.
me in first class?
Yeah, schools budgets are not the biggest of budgets, but no, I have a lot of friends actually that are teachers and that are based in schools, where I used to live, where my parents still do live. So I am communicating with them and trying to set up conversations for my visits and to try and do school assemblies. But it's just getting the time to get over there or my calendar aligning with theirs. But in terms of when I actually am able to deliver, even if that's just a video, I have such fantastic feedback from the teachers. Like, these kids, you've opened the minds of these kids to be like, I can do that. I can go down this route, or I might have this, or I think I have this. So it works in two ways. Like those who already know what they're working with suddenly see a world more of opportunity, and those that didn't even know that this was something that they should look out for think, oh, maybe this is something that could resonate with me. So I think it really helps, and I hope I can do it more.
That's so powerful. One other side effect I can see from this is that other kids who don't have any of this stuff are just more aware of it as well. And so, if they see a teacher, if they see someone in the exam room, in the exam hall or wherever they do it, with someone next to them reading to them, they understand why. Because I also feel like there isn't enough around kind of letting everybody know and be aware that, okay, this is why this is happening. And, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I remember I always thought it was that the kids were, because they were like trouble kids and they wanted to leave the exam, and I thought this person was with them to like make sure they don't leave the desk.
hold them
So
down.
I think it's bringing awareness to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This is not because they're bad kids. It's just, yeah.
Mm.
Wow. That's an incredible mission to have, man. And yeah, thank you for kind of like learning from your experience and sort of going back and doing something about it. That's really cool.
Thanks. Yeah.
And more on DSLX. So but I don't know about numbers or anything like that, but you work with dyslexic copywriters, but also minority copywriters in general. Do you find that there are similar kind of blockages that people have when they're from both of those groups, or do you find that kind of people who are minorities in general, whether it be because of something that is that they're dealing with like ADHD or dyslexia, or whether it be because of gender or whatever it is, do you find that kind of there's similar things, or do you find that it's always kind of a different case per person as well?
It's a different case. I think when I see people that are neurodiverse, a lot of the times I can identify a dyslexic writer from their writing, because I had the training in university to identify my own common errors for a dyslexic person and how to work with them. So if I read a writer's work and I think they're dyslexic, I'll normally tell them or ask them, hey, are you dyslexic? Normally people aren't offended by it. It's just something they've never considered before. And I'll edit their work and explain my edits accordingly and say, you're writing like this because I think XYZ. This is how you can look out for this mistake in the future. This is a common mistake that I see in dyslexics. And I try and give them feedback to be better writers in that respect. But across the spectrum of diversity, people have very different barriers to become writers as opposed to someone just being dyslexic. A lot of people from, let's say, the LGBT community struggle to be in the tech space, which is largely white male dominated, and they feel like they don't have a voice, they're not heard, they're not valued, and they feel like they're losing the bid to other people that don't identify like them. So there are a lot of other people coming from different minority groups that feel like, and in most cases or some cases are losing the bid because they don't look how they should look, or they don't act how they should act to be able to get into the cultural fit of working with a particular client or working with a particular business. That's a huge barrier that I'm seeing across other areas of diversity that I'm trying to break. For example, we have a ton of talent coming out of India. We have a ton of fantastic writers that study so hard to be a writer, but because they're not a cultural fit for clients that wouldn't necessarily always be presented with someone from India as a writer, as a service provider, it's not their natural go-to, and they go to what they know, which is their inner circles. So I'm trying to, for example, going on this example of India, I want to give the gig to that Indian writer if they have never had that gig before, because they can't get a foot in the door, because they're not in this inner circle of where the client is. And usually that's a mainstream city, that's, especially my space, like a big tech hub, which is often San Francisco, often London, a lot in Germany. And if you don't fit in that space, and if you don't run in those circles, it's so hard to get a start. And that's what I'm trying to do, is connect those dots and be like, I have great talent over here that you would normally never find, or you would never normally be introduced to. or is sometimes this talent is trying to reduce their rates to get a foot in the door, and clients don't actually want to pay that little because they feel like they're not getting quality. So I'm trying to empower these people to charge what they think they're worth and then up it to compete in the same market and be put on the same tier as other writers from one of those tech hubs, and to be considered that way. And it's trying to break that stereotype down.
Yeah, there's definitely a perception, right, that if you are from a certain part of the world, then it's kind of viewed as more cost effective, let's say, labor.
It's
simply because you're from that part of the world.
Yeah, but a lot of these clients don't want cost-effective solutions. They want to pay for the best of the best of the best. And so they go for those higher ranking writers that are charging more and have been writing for years. You know, this is such a huge annoying thing, is that the writers that are already in the industry are the ones that just continue to get the jobs because they've already got the experience. So these new writers that are emerging that really have studied their butts off to try and get to where they're at can't get their first gig because they're losing the bet to people that are already in the game. And that's something that I'm trying to do, is to open doors to brand new writers, no matter where you are in the world, and be like, let's get you a gig. Let's get your name on some articles and let's start building your career for you.
That's really awesome. So you're also democratizing that, basically being a content writer to more people, which is really awesome. That's really cool. That's a nice painting.
Thank you. It's Nina Simone.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
Absolute treasure of my life. Oh my goodness. I love that woman so much.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, she's been there through everything. So,
this particular painting, or just her in general and her music?
No, her music is just like game changing, I think. And I, especially in this era, not when she was younger, when she was more traumatized from life, I can relate, and I listen to her music relentlessly. So
and feel like you want to cry every time.
Yes.
I actually I'm a pretty basic fan when it comes to Nina Simone. I love her voice. I love her music. I've listened to a few of her songs, but not that many. Like not enough, I'd say. You know, like Baltimore and Feeling Good and kind of like the basic
classics
stuff, the classics, yeah. But it's one of those artists I've kind of wanted to dig more into. So maybe you can send me a few songs after.
I will. She's an amazing woman.
Wow. Did you draw that yourself?
did I draw it myself?
Yeah.
No, I got it. I got it commissioned from a Barcelona artist that I saw his work hanging in a pizzeria, I think like 6 years ago, or maybe more. And I bought it when I got my first job when I moved to Barcelona. And I said, now you're an adult because you're buying art. And it's been with me ever since. It's moved house like 4 times.
That's amazing. So you're a proper fan then. You're not joking around, right?
No. I'm hardcore, yeah.
That's so cool. Just before we switched off for a second there, we were talking about basically democratizing copywriting and content writing for more people who are amazing writers around the world, right?
Yeah.
Which is a really awesome thing to do, and it's not something that many people think of, because, you know, raising the standards when it comes to pricing and when it comes to quality and so on for everybody is something that many agencies just don't do, because they think, well, why would I do that? You know, and I can just charge less and maybe compete on that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that DSLX has always stood for, and one thing that I've kind of embedded in our values, is that we'll always pay the writer the rate that they ask. And if we can't pay that, we'll tell them, and we'll never ask a writer to lower their rates. I never want someone to feel like they need to lower their rates to get a gig. So, and we've had it before where writers have said, hey, this is our rates. And I said, okay, we can't afford that rate for any of our clients at the moment, but we'll definitely keep you on our books because hopefully we'll get there one day and we can afford that rate. And they said, oh no, but what would you offer? What can you do? And I said, no, it doesn't matter. Like this, if this is what you think you're worth, this is what we want to be able to pay you for. And I don't want writers to feel like they're sacrificing or that they're having to, meet us in the middle. I want writers to feel like they're worth what they want to charge. So we always stick to that, and we always say, if we can afford to pay you, we will, and if we can't, I don't want you to come down to meet what I can pay you at the moment.
That's really cool, man. How is the journey of starting a business and trying to run a profitable business, a profitable agency, trying to do everything that there is to do when it comes to running a business, which there's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's very tough, and you constantly have competing things that are coming in. And how is it doing that as alongside, sticking to core deep values and not budging on them and trying to do the work that you're doing and actually give back? Like, can you talk to us a bit about how you're doing it, how what it's like to do all of that at the same time?
Yeah. It's a constant juggle, and it's something that I have learned along the way to not sell out for what I stand for. And it's been really hard, especially when business is low, to say no to a business because you don't agree with what that business does, but the budget that business has could be massive, and the client that you could have signed could have been your biggest paying client, and to turn that business away because it doesn't resonate with your mission, your values, or the culture you're trying to build is very painful to do. But it has to be done. And if I have client calls where I see red flags, I just have to close them down. And I've had that on a couple of occasions now, but I had it most with one new client call. They wanted one of our biggest contracts, and on the call, they were just making me sweat. They were bombarding me with question after question after question that were the questions were insulting. And then they started asking me, where am I going to find these writers? Who are these writers? Where are they from? And then they said, we also want to interview the writers. And I said, that's no. If we've hired these writers and these writers are on our books, that's enough. You need to be able to trust that, and you need to be able to say these writers, no matter where they're from or who they are approved to be able to do this work that we think that they can do by us. And you shouldn't doubt that. And the way that they were going about their doubts, and the way that they were firing like really aggressive questions over to me on this acquisition call, and I wasn't going to be their account manager. I rarely manage client accounts. I was going to hand them over to a member of my team. And I said, if they make me feel like that, imagine how they're going to make one of my team members feel like that. There's a new-ish team member at the time. I don't want to put anyone through that. I don't want to have anyone else feeling like they're being attacked or sweating on a call. Like, I don't want anyone up from my team to be grilled. At the end of the day, we're writing for businesses. We're not saving lives. Like, it doesn't need such intensity, and I want people to enjoy what they do and feel relaxed while doing it, because that's when people do their best work. So I never want to put my employees or my team in a what's it called, a pressure oven, where they feel like it's just hot and heated, and they're flustered, and I could just see that happening with this client. So I had to say no, and I also made a point of saying no, and I said I really don't feel like our work culture aligns, and I explained how I had felt on that call. And it's something that I really value, is people are totally valid in how they feel, and all my team are totally valid in how they feel. And I rang that true with them, and I said, look, you did not make me feel good, and I have to turn this down. I didn't apologize because I wasn't sorry. Maybe my finance team would be sorry for us not having this budget, but at the end of the day, I'm looking after my team and I want them to be happy in what they do. And I want them to feel empowered in what they do. And this client was not going to do that. So saying no to your values, someone that doesn't align with your values, can be really tough, especially when it comes down to money and businesses in a tough time. But you just have to do it because it's not worth it.
I mean, if that's how you treat your team as well, it probably will help you attract the best people on your team, because they'll want to be treated well by their employer. So
yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. DSLX isn't massive. We have at the moment we have 3 full-time members of staff, and we have someone in finance, and we have about 30 to 40 writers on our books that we work with on a project basis, depending on the clients that we have. The very least I can do as a business owner is ensure that these 3 full-time team members have comfortable, happy lives and they enjoy what they do. I never want a team member to wake up on Sunday and think tomorrow's Monday, oh God. So why not? Like, if I'm going to do something good with a business, I can look after these 3 people and make sure that they enjoy their working week. I want them to feel at best like they're barely working and that we're getting great work done. And I want them to be happy while doing that. So that's a big goal of mine, is to look after these 3 people, 2 of which have been with me since the very beginning almost, and ensure that they enjoy their what is a huge part of their lives, a huge part of their week, their months, their years. Ensure that they feel like they're contributing to something good, and that their values are respected and heard, and their feelings are respected and heard as well. And that's a huge pressure as a founder, especially when business is tough and you get to these moments of having to say no or yes to red flag clients. But at the end of the day, that's who I've got to look out for, number 1, and then number 2 is me. So, but the team come first,
Yeah, that's how do you balance that out with being efficient, effective, whatever you want to call it, but getting as much done as you need to not only deliver the best service possible, but also be competitive in the market. Enabling a team to be happy to come to work every day whilst hitting all KPIs is not an easy thing to do.
No. I've set up probably one of the most extensive perks programs that you would ever see in a business of my size. It's ridiculous.
So cool. Okay, tell us more. You might convince some listeners to come and work with you, my friend.
I went to Hotjar. I went to HubSpot. I went to like all of these hugely funded businesses that I have respected for years. And I started looking through their perks and was like, I'm going to do the same and better. Why not? So I have a perks program of people get home office budgets, people get personal study budgets and time off, volunteering time off, mental health days, a very healthy amount of holidays, a very healthy amount of maternity leave, a ton of stipends for different tech things, work together budgets, holiday budgets. When they go on holiday, they can just order holiday money, health and wellness budgets, gym memberships, co-working memberships. Like, I just threw it all on the board because I was like, why not? Like, I want these 3 people to be happy and enjoy their lives. I'm going to give them as much as I possibly can. That's my priority there. And then I can't tell you the amount of HR articles and research we've done that explain that happy employees are more productive, happy employees are more profitable. Like, all of this comes second to that. But at the foot of it all, I just want the employees to be happy, and I want to reward them and thank them for trusting in me from so early on, because it's such a tiny business. that they've taken a huge risk. And I know that I can't pay what these hugely invested businesses are, because mine's bootstrap. We've just been earning from day one. We haven't had a penny of investment. So I think that
I was going to ask you about that actually. Have you had any? You haven't had any outside investment then?
no. It's just come from my freelancing days, from me earning money and building enough of a buffer to take the next risk, to take the next hire. And that's how we've grown. And yeah, we have shaky months for sure. And it's scary. Q1 this year, with everything that was going on in tech, we lost like 80% of our clients.
Whoa.
And I had a runway of thinking, this is how many months I can afford to keep my team. And when I was presented with crap, like this could result in me having to let someone go, I just couldn't do it. And I spoke to so many people that are CEOs or business owners, and they were like, streamline, like cut your team down. And I just can't do it. Like maybe I'm not supposed to be a business person in that respect. Sometimes I feel like I lead with too much heart. And it sounds cliche, but like I could not let someone go. I would literally run this business into the ground and then say at the end of the day, like, we're done, then let someone go thinking I can save money in the long run. So I just couldn't do it. Faced with the ultimatum, couldn't do it. And I said, I'm just going to have to make it work. I'm just going to have to get clients in. I'm going to have to keep respecting the values, keep giving my employees a good experience, keep delivering on their perks and their benefits and all of this. Yeah, they were stressed because I often voice my stress to them. But I never let them think, I never let them think that I was going to have to let them go, because that just wasn't an option for me. I was just going to make it work no matter what.
Wow.
I think I went on a tangent.
No. This is all about tangents, my friend. Yeah, that's just as another business owner, that is so hard to do. To be able to do that. I also, so you mentioned the outside investment, and in a crazy way, I think it actually, you have more freedom by not having outside investment in it, to be able to do these things. One of the things that kept coming, kind of running in my mind when you were saying these things, is that if I have a meeting with our investors at one point, say like, a quarterly meeting or whatever, and we have, they're asking me questions about, okay, well, how are things? What's going on? How are you making sure we're going to survive through the tough times and so on? I'm trying to imagine the kind of questions or the kind of things I'd get back if I say, yeah, well, we're giving everybody perks and making sure everybody's happy. I'm like, well, is that the focus right now? And maybe it's one of those things where you should pick the investors that operate in a way that you want to operate as well. So that's one part of it.
100%.
But the other part of it is that when you're not handling someone else's money in that sense, it's all bootstrapped by you and your team. That freedom is definitely pretty cool. And it sounds to me like you're making the most out of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's another thing that you just reminded me of, is that I try and reward the team as much as I can financially as well. So everyone has their salaries, but I also say for every account manager gets a percentage of the profits that the business makes on the accounts they're looking after, on top of their salaries at the end of each quarter. And that's something that I really enjoy, actually, about not having investors, is to be able to make those financial decisions to say, we're going to do this. We're going to go and give XYZ% to every account manager off the profits that they make off of their accounts. I don't know how many investors would agree with that. I don't know how many anyone really would agree with that. Like, you're already paying them a salary, you're already giving them so much. And I was like, let's give them more. Let's look after them better. So that's what I'm just trying to do.
No, but it's great. Yes, maybe not everyone would agree with that. I think
Yeah.
with account managers, you might find if some people would agree more with that. It's like with stuff kind of more in the sales side of things. But then so typically they might get a smaller salary because they get the bonus, right? But yeah,
Mm.
so you may get some agreement if that's what's happening. But um, with all the perks and everything that you're offering, honestly, mate, your team sounds like they're having a great time. So that's
I hope so.
incredible.
One's just getting back from a 3 month trip traveling Latin America,
Wow.
and she said to me when she's young, she's just come out of university last year, and she said when she told me about her plans to go to South America, and she was like, "So I'm so sorry, but I don't know, maybe you have to find someone else for me, blah blah blah." I wanted to give you as much notice as possible. I was like, "Oh, you don't want to keep working?" And she was like, "Can I?" And I said, "Well, yeah, we're fully remote. This is exactly the type of thing that I stand for and I love to be able to know that we are empowering you to go and live your best life in Latin America and have a great 3 months." And she was like, "I really, I didn't think this was an option. I thought I would just have to like pause working with you." Or I said, "If you want to keep working and if you want to fund your way around and do extended weekend trips," I said, "you could book every Friday and Monday off for these 3 months and do long weekends." And her mind was blown. She was like, "I didn't even consider
Wow. Yeah.
doing something like this." I said, "This is exactly the type of flexibility that I can offer you. I can't offer you a HubSpot, huge salary. But if I can offer you this freedom and be able to fund that freedom, then I'm all for it." Because I
Sure.
think I'm a huge believer that people can do their best work in inspiring places, and I'm a
Absolutely.
huge believer in remote work. So I'm like, go, go, go. So yeah, she actually flew back last night after 3 months of Latin America, and she had an amazing time. And I'm so happy that I've been able to support that chapter of our life by work. Like, it's great.
That's so cool. That's yeah. And actually, on remote work, since we're on the topic, um, remote work, it's an interesting one because some people, yeah, some people really think that you need to be in the same place to get incredible work done, and but it's and there might be some truth to that with certain types of roles where if you bring people together, it maybe like it doesn't have to be every single day, but if you bring people together at certain times to be in the same room and brainstorm around stuff or ideate around things, I often find that that can make a big difference in terms of
Yeah,
just how much more you're able to output, how much more you're able to produce, and how much better the work is because it's for some reason when you're in the same room that bouncing off each other is just so much easier to do.
100%.
But with that being said, like the majority of work can really be done remotely. I mean, we at Q Finds have been a remote company since day one. I mean, I met my co-founder for the first time like 2 years in person. So like working remotely definitely works. Like
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it. And you can get things done. Um, so but how do you this is what I'm trying to get to now is like on the creative side of things, I feel like, if I meet with our marketing lead in person and spend a day together to ideate around content and the creative side of things when it comes to marketing or the strategy and so on, we just get so much more done than we
100%.
get done on a call. So for a creative company, um how do you kind of work around that with remote work?
Yeah, I think that, well, another offering that I brought in this year was an offsite. I want to have an offsite once a year. Really, I would love to have it twice a year, but again, tiny company, tiny team, tiny budget. Ray, be realistic. So we're trying to do one offsite a year to really connect to each other. And I want it to be like a week-long thing. And I want it to be, this is something that I learned at one of my previous companies, Remote Year, which is work and travel program. We did these offsites and they were just fantastic. And they were organized like down to the minute, but they were all about team building, and they were about ideating new projects. They were about figuring out each other's personality types and how we can work together better. And I think our last one was in Colombia, out in the middle of nowhere. We'd rented like a huge masilla, and it was just a team of 11 of us for a week. Incredible. And I want to be able to bring that type of energy to my offsites and to get my team connected in that way. And it's kind of tricky for us because we were founded during these COVID years. So this remote work situation was kind of forced upon us from day one. But the first team member that ever joined me, I had worked with her previously in another company, and she was my intern. So I had that face-to-face connection with her. I had that human interaction with her. And I also had that with another one of our team members as well, who was living in Barcelona. So it's fantastic to be able to have that human-to-human connection. And me and the first employee that was the intern are actually going to meet for the first time face-to-face since working together on DSLX. And It will be 2 years of working together. And, she's been with me almost since day one. So we've managed to do great things, but I'm so excited for this week that we've got together to do even better.
And let me tell you right now, one of the first shocking things that you're going to discover, both of you, is height.
Height, yeah.
You won't really know what the height difference is, or whether it's the same or whatever, until you meet and you're like, oh, okay. I remember looking up at our co-founder and be like, wow, you're tall, mate. Like, you're really big. I didn't realize.
I remember in a past job, it was actually with Remote Year, one of my interviewers, I just had her down as the same height as me in my head. And then I met, and she was like a good 2 heads shorter than me. And I was like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Where? I just did not see that coming. It was just such a shock to me.
The image we build in our heads is kind of based on your level with the camera and everything, right? But in reality, it's very different.
Yeah, 100%. No, I'm excited to go and meet her, and I do really value FaceTime. But in our remote world, remote first business, we're all writers at the end of the day. So a lot of our work is independent work. We don't need to rely on such team heavy work. But I have, especially more this year, I did reviews at the end of last year. And one thing everyone pushed for was more chit chat between each other. And so I'm trying to create like digital spaces for us to come together and just talk about anything apart from work. So we sometimes have themed online lunches. We have themed meetings where I'll get to know each other via a client. So sometimes we have like client days. So we had a travel client, and everyone was writing just for this travel client for 2 days. And the idea was the 2 days were themed, and everyone got a lunch budget, and they had to order a lunch from one of the countries that they were writing about. So everyone got different lunches. I had an American, I went for a cheeseburger, but everyone had different lunches. We were writing about different countries.
Did you pick first by any chance?
No, I was last. I always take the brunt of the work whenever we're doing stuff like this. I try to take the stuff that I don't think other people are going to want to write. Wow. So I had the American one. Actually, I was writing about Austin, and so I had south of the United States, and so I was trying to look for something in that theme, and then at the end of it all, we had question time that was themed around everyone's travel experiences. So we had to ask each other like your worst travel experience, your biggest travel hiccup, next place you want to visit, and stuff like that to just inspire conversation. So I'm trying to do that more alongside actually productive meetings of getting work done. I probably have them less than I have the general chit chat meetings. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'll tell you in a few years.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to hearing the results of that one. But no, it's definitely good to have that, right? The chit chat, the more informal conversations between you, and so on. And by the way, just back on the food thing, not a too bad place for food. So the southern part of America, of the US, like when it comes to barbecues and burgers and whatnot, I mean, you can really go crazy with that. So
I was looking for a barbecue place, but I couldn't find one on Glovo, which is our delivery app. So I had to go with a cheeseburger, and I was like, I was really looking for like Texas barbecue.
Yeah,
and I
exactly.
Get it.
Exactly. Like, yeah. ribs or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Well, next time, my friend. Next time you can have the US again, and then get to write about it.
I'll just do my research next time.
Yeah, exactly. Sounds really awesome though. The culture and everything in the company sounds really cool. You mentioned that like you're putting this extra work and to create these chit chat moments and the informal conversations and so on, and that is part of the overhead that comes with remote, because you have to try and replicate this kind of being in the office, like bumping into someone at the coffee machine and having a conversation. We want to try and replicate that as much as possible. And it's easier said than done, because also like getting the engagement from people as well, who might just want to sit down and work and just do their stuff, because they're in an environment where they're not bumping into people naturally or whatever. So kind of like creating that at the start, I feel like might be a little bit harder. But can you maybe talk us through that a little bit, like with trying to replicate more of those moments, or trying to make it more personal as a remote working company? Did you find that the uptake for these activities and things was just pretty easy from the get-go, or did you find there was a bit of resistance at the start and then people kind of warmed up to the idea?
I think people needed it. I think people, as soon as they heard it, were like, yes. And I made it very clear that this was a very informal thing. And because we're working across time zones, the one team member that was traveling in Latin America, Europeans were having their lunch, and this Latin America-based team member joined us on her phone on the bus on the way to the WeWork. So it was not like you had to be sitting at your desk and you had to be formally switched on and this is our informal moment. It was very relaxed. The Latin America team member just
formalizing the informal moment, in other words.
Exactly. Informalizing the formal. I don't know which way around it is, but I just wanted to make it clear that people can drop in. And probably the one that struggled the most with it was me. Like, I was really struggling to not talk about work because I had updates from that day that I wanted to share with them. And I was like, no, Ray, this is not the moment. This is the moment to understand about each other's lives and to get to know each other better. So I think I struggled the most at trying to stick off subject and to talk about our lives rather than to bring things back to DSLX and not share updates.
Do you have any tips on how to lead that sort of thing, that type of session or conversation, or to have it even be led by the team? Just generally how to kind of go about it?
Yeah, I always try to make note of whatever that person is doing in their lives at that moment, what I knew was happening in our lives. So the one that was traveling Argentina at the time, I was saying, okay, so how was your trip to XYZ? I know you did it. And I would try and consciously either make note or remember whatever I know is going on in their lives at the moment. And then that inspires the conversation. And then I try to step out and I try to let them lead. I don't want it to be me like, question. I want it to be like, you guys chit chat and I will contribute my chit chats and share my story where they're necessary. But I really don't want to lead it because then it defeats the conversational kind of flow that I want. So I try to kickstart a conversation and then step back and just let them talk.
That's really cool. Thank you for that. Might steal some of those things from you.
Do it. Definitely.
Speaking of which, are you training for anything at the moment? Any marathons or anything like that?
You're going to take note for the next podcast.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to have a chat about it.
Well, I just qualified my yoga teacher training.
I know, and I'm definitely looking to get onto that.
Yeah, so I just qualified that. Training for anything at the moment, I don't. Oh wow, it's beach volleyball season, so I have beach volleyball tournaments almost every other weekend throughout the summer. So really, that's my main focus. And I was thinking about going back to Taekwondo. I used to do Taekwondo a few years back.
No way, very cool.
Yeah, I loved it, but I didn't know the language then. Cool. Huh?
So many cool kicks, right?
I honestly, like, it was so fun, but I didn't speak enough Spanish to really benefit from the class. So I was learning a new sport that was being taught to us in Korean, but the Korean was being taught to us in Spanish, and I was coming into it as an English speaker to a new
That
sport.
sounds like a recipe for disaster, to be honest with you. You just kind of have to follow the motion, and that's it, pretty much, right?
Yeah, but like, I think I was just copying everyone. And I was just saying the words that they were saying. I didn't have a clue what I was saying. I didn't have a clue what part of the body I should be tensing or anything like that. And I think if I went back to it now, I think I would learn really differently and perhaps a lot more efficiently. So I'm thinking of going back to Taekwondo as well.
That's really cool. So you're a martial arts fan then, I take it.
I don't like the fighting.
Okay.
I don't like, I'm not
Training.
an aggressive person, but like with mats and stuff, and you have the little paddle things that you kick and stuff. Maybe I have a lot of energy that I like getting out on that. But actually, the actual fights, I don't like how competitive I am, and it's just dangerous. Like, I'll end up getting myself hurt.
Or hurting somebody else.
No, because I'm an adult doing it, and all of these adults doing it have been doing it for years, so they're all black belts. And I get I get lumped with the black belts as I think I was a yellow belt in the end. So I'm sparring with black belts that could knock me out in one kick. So I'm like a little, I don't know, like a little squirrel compared to the level that they're at.
That is an incredible way to learn, though. If you, I mean, competing with really, really good guys like that all the time, it's going to be quite tough because you will get beaten pretty much every time.
Yeah.
So it's great ego training, right?
Yeah,
it's
puts
very
you in your
humbling.
place.
Yeah, puts you in your place.
Real
Okay,
fast.
and teach you to kind of get back into it and continue and keep going and going. But and I remember someone was talking about this where somebody who's way more well versed in martial arts than I am. They have crazy belts and different type of martial arts and stuff. And talking about how like it's good to do that, but you also kind of want to train with people that are just above your level, or like either similar or just above, because you learn the really good guys, like the really good ones, they have amazing technique and amazing stuff, and there are subtle things to the amount of training that they've put in that you may not be able to pick up as easily as if you just go for like one step up or two steps up. You can often learn a lot from that because you actually might be able to win against them every now and then. They'll make a couple of mistakes every now and then.
Yeah.
And that can also help in different ways, and you can learn different things. But it's definitely still good to go head to head with black belts and kind of see what you can learn there.
I had one guy that I think we were sparring, and it was about the amount of kicks that you could get on the other person, and the maestra was just taunting him like, Ray, the new guy's he's beating you. Oh my gosh, you're being beaten by the new guy. Blah 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 blah. And I dropped my hands for 1 second, and the black belt lost it and roundhouse kicked me to the nose split, blood everywhere, and I was on the floor. I think I passed out, and
oh my god,
I was just like, he just lost his cool, and he got banned for a few weeks after that. He got like a real serious talking to. Of
course,
but he also he had learning difficulties, and he had Asperger's.
Okay.
I never remember how to say it, but he had Asperger's, and he really struggled in social situations, and I think that the maestra just pushed him too far, and he just lost it and knocked me out. And after that, I was really put off sparring for a long time.
Mate, your nose looks fine. Don't worry. I've broken mine. Look, I have a bridge there. It's,
How did you break yours?
I got into a crazy fight. You should have seen the other guy. No, I fell off a bicycle.
Oh no!
I crashed. Basically, I was riding my brother's BMX, and something basically, I did something stupid. I was going quite fast, going up this hill. I do something stupid. I end up going over the handle and then kind of going like head / nose first into the road.
Oh,
So that's how I got that here, and that's how I got got my cut. No, I've got 3 stitches there as well. On
really?
my nose.
You gotta make
So
a better
it was
story
just
than
the right
that.
side. I know exactly. Yeah, I mean, the story's pretty cool if I tell you what happened with the ambulance afterwards and the fact that it didn't come for 45 minutes. But that's a different story, maybe for another time.
Okay.
But it was pretty funny. Like the whole situation was pretty funny. And so I ended up walking home because my home was like 20 minutes away from there, walking. So I called the ambulance. After I'd fallen, I was like, I'm definitely bleeding. Yeah, there's a lot of blood. Okay, great stuff. So let me call the ambulance, get them to come over and kind of pick me up. And I called them. They're like, we're going to be 45 minutes. I'm like, well, I'm literally
Yeah,
bleeding. Like my nose is bleeding.
that's of no
I'm sure it's
use.
broken. My head is bleeding everywhere. I think I might split my lip even. And they're like, well, sorry, sir, that's all we can do. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to walk home 20 minutes away. At least they can patch me up in some way there,
You just
right?
stick
And
your
then
thumb out on the roadside if he comes
yeah,
by.
and just send the ambulance to the house, right? Because like at least I can walk there. My parents are there, my brothers are there at the time as well, so maybe they can like look after me a little bit. So I start walking home, and then he says to me, "I'm so sorry if you leave where you are now, you're gonna have to call us back when you get there. You can't send an ambulance to a different place. It's honestly
Uh,
ridiculous. So, but I figured out what it was. So I called my brother and said to him, look, don't worry. He'd done the same thing to me before, by the way, a few years back. He called me up and he's like, don't worry, I'm fine. But I was like, okay, cool. And now it's my turn to repay the favor. So I was like, don't worry, but call me an
Jeez.
ambulance, please. I'm on the way home. And when they called the ambulance, so this is a little tip for anyone out there. Hopefully nobody will get hurt that way and
Yeah.
nobody will be put in that situation. But if you are put in that situation, if somebody else calls on your behalf, they take it a lot more seriously. Because if you do it, it's like, oh, well, if they can talk and they sound fine, then they're probably just exaggerating.
Yeah.
So somebody else
I
called and like, oh no, that's serious. Within 10 minutes, it was there. So,
I learned that in first aid when I trained to be a lifeguard when I was 16 to be like a
oh,
weekend
wow.
job, and we always learned that the first thing you do when you have a mass like injury of people is you go to the quietest one first. The loud ones, they can talk for themselves, so they're fine. But the quiet ones, there's usually a bigger problem. So you go to the quietest ones first, which makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah, so I just be quiet and get someone else to talk on your behalf, and then
Yeah,
so you can get what you
yeah,
need, I guess.
exactly.
But I just remember walking home with the bicycle next to me. I'm just kind of like dragging it with me, and I need to cross this main road, and there's a bus just going past, and I remember looking up, and there are people on the top deck looking down, like just in shock. It was
Oh
that
God,
made the trip worth it. It was really funny.
nightmare.
And then the last funny part of that was getting into the ambulance, and I kid you not, one of the very first things the paramedic said to me was like, "You don't by any chance have a modeling career, do you?" I was like, "Thanks, mate. Appreciate
Thanks.
that."
Cheers.
Yeah.
How old were
So,
you?
sorry.
How old were you?
Um. So this would have been just before that, 20-ish, 19, 20,
Oh
around there.
no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crushed all self-confidence you would have mustered by that age.
It's fine. It's funny because I was actually trying to start a YouTube channel at the time as well, and I was like starting to make a lot of videos and like be more active on YouTube and so on. And then that happened, and I was like, "Screw it! I'm gonna keep going anyway. It
Go to
doesn't matter."
podcasting.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's video now, so
Yeah,
there you
it's
go.
video.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I didn't let it stop me. Don't worry. It was all good, my friend.
Good.
It's character, right? So now when people ask me, I can make up random stories, and then it could be quite funny. So there you go. Anyway, we go on tangents massively. But yeah, so martial arts, yoga. I want to talk a bit about yoga. What is yoga to you, and why do you love it so much?
Yeah. Um, yoga I started in, I think I started in the pandemic really. And I started it as something to do at home. I started it as something because everyone says yoga this, yoga saved my life, blah blah blah. You're a yogi and you everyone seems so happy as a yogi. So I was thinking, okay, let's see what the fuss is about.
I want to be that happy as well, right?
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, right. I don't believe it, but I'll give it a go. And so I came to yoga with a very closed mind, and I came to yoga with a very much the idea that it is fitness, flexibility, very much the physical side of things. And so I started practicing, and my idea was to get strong. You know, I want to become more flexible. I want to become stronger. I want to improve my core strength, and that's the attitude I was looking at it with. So I started with YouTube videos, and you know, when they would do the class opening, and they would say, "Okay, a minute here of silence, a minute of meditation. Let's open with Om." And then at the end in Shavasana, and you do all of this mental wind down and stuff like that. I just skip it. I'd be like, no, I don't have time. I just want to get to the meat of the stuff. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do the sun salutes. I don't want to warm up. I've already gone for a run. Just give me the physical. And that's how I approach yoga. And then I started going to some classes when we were able to go to classes back in Barcelona. And I started to edge into more of the spiritual side of it. And I started to edge more into the mental well-being side of it, and I started to allow it a little bit more. I started joining in on the OMs. I started joining in on the prayer of thanks at the end, and I was thinking, and there's, you know, some yoga teachers talk of God and what is God, and you know, I didn't want to get too much into the spirituality side of it at all. And then I don't know what happened. I was going like 3 times a week, and it just changed me, I guess. And I started really, not that you believe in anything more, but you just allow it more, and you just are more comfortable with the spiritual side of the talks. And it started opening my mind. I started becoming a much calmer person. I started being able to handle stress a lot better, handle anxiety a lot better, handle anger a lot better. I've never really been an angry person, but
you don't strike me as an angry person.
No, but I have pet peeves that, or
everyone,
you know, if you see someone that normally you would judge, or normally they did something to you that should have angered you or upset you, you let it go, and I started seeing those changes in myself and accepting. One thing I am is I try to control every situation, and yoga teaches you to not worry or stress about the stuff that you cannot control. And that's something huge that I really needed to be able to identify about myself. And that's something I still struggle with. It's something that I have been able to accommodate better because of yoga. So that's where I'm at.
Can we talk about that for a minute before going back to the yoga journey?
Sorry.
Can we talk about that for a minute before going back to the yoga journey? The control thing.
The controlling thing.
Yeah, because it's just in the context of running a business, in the context of wanting to do a lot of things in life, not letting everything happen how it might happen is an attitude that may not necessarily help you get the most done. But controlling as much as you can of your diary, of how you spend your time, of when you do this, when you do that, of, you know, time, what you spend time on is a really important one, but also like how you handle different situations and so on. Like, you know, do you negotiate more in this situation? And there's those little things you can control to make things better, especially if you're someone who is driven by getting better, or if you're someone who's running a business and constantly wanting to improve on things, right? So I can understand why you, being someone who's naturally quite good at that side of things, helps you with running a business probably. But what can you say that you're learning about that, and kind of the kind of accepting things maybe that you maybe not always should control? Yeah.
It's a real balancing act. And as a business owner with goals, there are certain things that you can control and contribute towards. But at the end of the day, that's mostly just you and your actions and what you choose to do. everything else around you is largely beyond your control. You can influence it, and you can hope that your influence it edges it in the direction that you want it to go. But there comes a point when you need to say, Ray, this is not going to go where you're going to go, and to not worry about it and to just let it go. So that happens a lot with new clients, even like down to emails, right? I hate selling. I hate having to have client acquisition calls. I despise it. I just want, I've never had to do it until this year. It's always been word of mouth growth for us. So now
why do you not like it so much?
I just hate feeling like I need to convince someone to work with me, or need to convince someone to that they need our service. I prefer someone to know that they need our service, or that to know our quality of work already from word of mouth referrals. But for me to have to prove it, I just really don't enjoy it. I'm not a salesperson. I don't like to have to twist anyone's arm or negotiate things. It's just not for me. I'm a writer at the end of the day, and that's what I want to do. And
can I offer a small word around this?
Yes,
around the sales side of things. So trying to sell is very difficult from my experience, but understanding people's current position to genuinely see if you can offer them value, and then educating them around why what you're doing is amazing, achieves the same result.
Yeah.
But it's not selling, right?
I try to do it, and I try to, like we do content audits, right? We do SEO and content audits on websites to try and showcase to people the potential that they can have with SEO and great content. Usually people find us from work we've already published and they say, we want this, can you work with us? But it's when I have to convince someone that they need it, or when I have to try and, or when I have to just like rally up the best of my work and like almost send over a resume, I really don't enjoy it. And I don't enjoy contract negotiations or anything like that. Okay, how much you want, blah, 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 blah. It's just not for me. I just don't, it's not in my wheelhouse. And I've never been a salesperson, or however you want to call it.
Some people actually love that part.
Some people love it. Some people thrive off of it. Some people like really enjoy the hustle, and I just don't. I think maybe I'm just a slower pace. I would just chit chat happily for an hour. Oh, by the way, do you want to work together? Oh yeah, great, cool. But going in hard and it's not for me. So
you know what's really interesting? Different parts of the world. So we've been looking at the Middle East as a potential expansion area for our business, right? And I just love how out here you go into a meeting that's an hour long. You spend 45 minutes talking about your life, their kids, how things are going, what are your thoughts about this and that and whatever. And then in the last little bit, you discuss what's actually like the business part.
That's what I want to do.
I love that. And I exactly. I absolutely love that, because it's very like person to person type thing, like type of scenario. Whereas I find that in the UK, if you're dealing with US clients, I don't know what it's like in Europe as much. I know a little bit, but not as much as I'm familiar with the UK and the US. It's very much like, okay, cool, we're on this call, amazing stuff, let's get to it.
I think it's also the cool culture that we have of being on a Zoom call, locking someone in on a calendar time zone and feeling like, you have to sit like this, and I can't be having my lunch, I can't be having a drink.
Yeah.
It's very much like, okay, you're consuming my time, let's talk business. And that's the general culture and attitude that I think we've built up around that. And I think that face-to-face stuff doesn't flow like that, because it just often comes a lot more informal. But one of the benefits I say of working with DSLX is our culture, is our people, is how we work, and a lot of how that is, like even down to my account managers training. I want account managers to know about our clients' lives. I want them to message them on their birthdays. I want them to check in with them on how that event went over the weekend. I want to form, and it's in our training, like to form relationships with your clients and to remember things about your clients, and to, 30% of your email, 40% of your email doesn't need to be about work. Like, let's have chats and build humanity in a way that gives other people joy to come into the office. And I want them to enjoy interacting with DSLX. And I think that's so important. And I think if I could adopt more of that into sales culture, into selling, it would really benefit. I would enjoy it a lot more. But it's just that cool culture that we've developed with new people. It's just, okay, let's talk business.
You know what the crazy thing around this that I found is that some of the best salespeople I've ever worked with in my life are so good at exactly that.
Yeah.
Building that personal rapport. And so the really, really, really good salespeople are able to just give you a call out of the blue and just have a chat with you. And for some reason, you just want to have a chat with them. And you just want to talk about random crap for like a good 10, 15 minutes or whatever. And then like in the last 5 minutes, it's like, oh, by the way, yeah, we're doing this thing. Film it might be quite relevant. Happy to send you something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so in a weird way, maybe you should use the fact that you hate sales calls so much and try to do it in a way that you think it should go, because it might go better than you think.
Yeah. I could definitely adopt it more into the beginning of those calls. I feel like when I start those calls, there's a pressure to get to business. And I feel like there's always that, so where are you calling from? Yeah, calling from here. How's your day? Great. How's the weather? Great. And then there's that pause. And then they say, and then you think, okay, this is my DSLX, blah, 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 blah. And that's that lead time that everyone expects now. So I think I should just flip it on its head and just carry on going until they say, are you going to sell to me or not?
Yeah, exactly. Just carry on, literally. Yeah.
I did it on LinkedIn. I mean, we did an outbound campaign this year. And that's why we sent out all these cold messages on LinkedIn. And then people would reply to me and say, okay, Ray, give me your best shot. What are you offering? And I say, oh, we're offering X, Y, Z. Anyway, more about this. And I just spoke about whatever the intro was about, or something completely irrelevant to DSLX. And I had people reply to me and say, well, that's not much of a sales pitch, is it? And I said, I'm not a seller, I'm a writer. Like, if you want content, we can do content. If not, let's just have a nice connection. And those calls those messages have been absolutely funny, like hilarious. Those LinkedIn chains that we've had of just people being like, where's the pitch? And I say, there isn't one.
There isn't a pitch, mate. We're just having a chat.
Yeah. So I've kind of done that now on LinkedIn because, why not?
Yeah. I mean, that's a nice change to the stuff people normally receive on LinkedIn, right? I mean, hell, and it's to your advantage because you're a copywriter, you're a content company. So for you guys, like, you could even just write a really nice short story and just send it to someone.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I thought I'd send you this to make your day better. Like, and then kind of start with that, right?
Yeah, I'm mixing it up because I've figured out that the hardcore selling or the direct selling just doesn't work, and at the same time I don't enjoy it, so why bother? But if I could adopt that LinkedIn attitude that I have to calls, I think it would be really interesting.
Yeah, and it takes a bit of practice, right, to get better at speaking with people whom you've never met before, who are probably having a really busy day, and just kind of like helping them get their guard down and be a bit more at ease.
They're like, I'm back to back with calls, I'm slammed all day.
Exactly.
And I feel like, oh gosh, I'm eating up some of your time. I should get straight to it. I think that's a big pressure.
Or I'm going to help you relax and switch off I'm going to help you relax and switch off for 10 minutes.
I could do some yoga with them.
You can get back refreshed. That would be brilliant. That would be brilliant. Great segue, by the way. So back to yoga.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We're talking about.
So you recently got a qualification, right?
Yes, and we're talking about not worrying about that stuff that you can't control, and that's something that I really learned through yoga, and it's something that I'm really putting into practice now, and to try and trust the ebb and flow of business. Like business comes, business goes, clients churn, clients come, and to just trust that. And that was really hard for me to do at the beginning of this year when 80% of our clients went. And I was thinking, gosh, no one else can leave now. But yeah, it's flowing again. And it's just having to trust that. And I think what worried me the most was people perhaps thinking that my hands-off approach to trying to control everything would be a sign of weakness, that my forgiveness and vulnerability would be a sign that I was weak. And that's not the case. Being forgiving and being vulnerable and letting go of trying to control everything actually makes you so much stronger. Like if you think of a willow tree, right? It's so flexible, but it doesn't break. So that's the way I try and look at it. And that's something that yoga has opened my eyes to. And now I'm trying to deliver more yoga content on LinkedIn, and I'm trying to bring yoga more into the business scape and what DSLX is. It's about, we're empowering minority and dyslexia minority group writers to write. So we're lifting people's well-being. How else can I help deliver on this well-being front? I love yoga. I'm passionate about yoga. I'm tired of selling. Let's share more yoga stuff. Let's get more people doing yoga. Let's get people more mentally happy. So that's what I'm trying to do with yoga now. I did a year-long course, qualified yoga instructor with Yoga Alliance in the UK. And I'm actually about to start on another course in 2 weeks for yoga adjustments, which is a 6-month course. And I adore it. It's a new chapter of my life. And no matter whether someone thinks they're a yogi or thinks yoga is not for them, I just love doing it. And I welcome anyone to do it, no matter how they look at it or why they're doing it. Everyone's on their own journey. And I just love how it's taught me so many areas of how I can run a business better by often being less of something, being less controlling, being less forceful, being less aggressive or whatever it is, just being calmer. And that's what I'm trying to adopt.
It's just one of those things. All those things you're mentioning are incredible. And it's one of those things where I feel like you can read about them all you want. You can hear people tell you those things all you want, but it's the practice that makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
So it's just like the embodiment of that thing. Excuse me. Like the embodiment of that thing that is less forceful or less controlling. It's one thing talking about it and trying to be that way, but it's another thing when you can actually kind of embody it in your energy and in your attitude. And I feel like it can often be quite hard to do that just by trying to do it.
Yeah.
And so it makes so much sense why for you yoga has been that kind of teacher, I suppose, for those things.
It has, and it's one thing that I've managed to do. I can do this with beach volleyball, and I can more often do it with yoga, is you entirely switch off and you're just doing volleyball or you're just doing yoga and the thoughts are not there at all. And then you come out of this trance and you think, I just didn't have a single thought for 20 minutes. And then your mind's awake again. But you just find this Zen state that you can get into. So in those moments of business when it's been really hard or I've had to make hard decisions or whatever, I know I can just calm it right down, disassociate myself from those current feelings I'm having and try and find a level of that Zen state that you can get in yoga or a passion sport and just get back there and your mind just clears, honestly. And this is coming from someone I wanted to do yoga for fitness. I was not a believer in any of the spirituality side of it, but it's
You've
finding
been
that
converted.
state.
You've been converted. You've gone through the dark side.
Yeah. Yeah. And they
It's
have
beautiful, man.
vegan cookies.
Vegan, that's wise, the vegan cookies. That's really
No.
beautiful. Yeah. Passion sports you mentioned as well is one of those things where don't know what it is about physical, something that's physical, something that is like a physical exercise or a physical something, and you just go into that state of literally being there and only there. Yeah, that's
100% in that moment, in that minute, not thinking about what just happened, not thinking about what's going to happen, just letting your mind totally switch off and your body just doing what it loves. That's what you get. And
yeah.
sometimes it's good to have that mind just switch off totally. And knowing that we can do that via yoga mostly, but I do it by passion sports like beach volleyball. And knowing that I can have that state of mind and pulling a level of that into everyday business life is so helpful. Yeah, I think it's really helped being a better business leader, I hope.
Well, what I like about this a lot is that I've been lately thinking about getting into Pilates or yoga for strength and flexibility reasons.
Great.
So maybe through doing that, it will be about a lot more than that for me as well.
100%. It doesn't have to come overnight. You know, you can be you can put up as many walls as you like. If you keep going, they'll eventually be broken down. And that's exactly what I did. And it's great that you want to go to it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Do it. Go and just be open-minded to whatever comes and keep going. It's practice. And it will work its way through any defense that you've put up eventually.
Which there may be some, but we'll see how that goes. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'll
Maybe
report
there's
back
none.
and,
Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll definitely report back. I would love to talk more about what you want to do next with yoga, and then go into content marketing and marketing since you've been in that world for so long.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you about how you've seen it change over time, for better or for worse.
So with yoga, it's an idea that I've been toying with actually really in the last couple of weeks. And it's a new branch to DSLX to help us better deliver on our mission and vision. And I really seriously want to consider how I can get yoga into the business world more and to have it as a service that DSLX offers. I just think it would be such a great plus to the work culture, the work ethic, the values that we're trying to create. If I can get into offices and start actually teaching yoga classes to our clients, to our friends of our clients, to whoever, I want it to be like an offering. 2 of us are qualified yoga instructors out of 4. That's 50% of the company teaching yoga.
Wow. Okay.
One of us does it avidly as well. So I think that whether it means that I employ yoga instructors or we just do online offerings, but I think human yoga classes are just unrivaled as opposed to online offerings. I just would love to get more yoga and take it as really a limb of the business and see where it can go. So I think that's something I'm going to try and do.
That's such a good idea. That's it's so different to what is out there normally.
Yeah. Wow. I don't see any. It's so random, but then why not? Like, this business is built off of what I'm passionate about. It's built off of my challenges that I've had. So let's keep running with that, and because other people are going to have them. Yeah. So if that means that I can get into other offices and open people's minds up to yoga, let's go. Like, let's do it. And I have another yoga instructor as well on the team. Anyway, we don't know what the future of content is going to be. We don't know what the future of AI is going to be.
It's so true.
It's a really volatile market at the moment. One thing we do know is well-being is just constantly on the rise. Mental health well-being is just one of the few markets that has been steadily increasing when everything else is decreasing or inflation is scaring people to not invest in things. Mental well-being is still being invested in. Mental well-being companies are still winning investment. Customers are still buying in this area, even if they're cutting down in other areas. So I think it could be a really strong business opportunity for us. And if it helps us deliver on our mission at the same time, it's just a win-win.
Absolutely. And everything is strange until it's done, right? So we've never seen. I mean, I've personally never come across an offering where you say, okay, we're gonna do the content for you. We're gonna do a really damn good job, but we're also gonna come and give yoga
Teach you
classes to your
yoga.
team. Yeah, teach you some yoga to help you, chill out a bit. And it's like, okay,
Why
cool.
not?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
That's
and it's
exactly what I
actually
want to do.
yeah, and it's a really interesting one. You're 100% right about the mental well-being thing. It's becoming so much more important now. And yeah, I mean, yeah, that could go hand in hand, and it could be one of those things where businesses of the future just start doing more cool, wacky things like that. In a way, you come and think of it. I mean, why not? I mean, if it will add to the business offering, if it will add to you as a business, if it aligns with your mission, literally, why not? So that's a very good.
And that's the thing, is that I made this company because I wanted to leave something more. I made this company because I'm not working for anyone else.
Yeah.
So I can do these ridiculous things. Maybe they work, maybe they don't, but I can do it.
Try it and
We'll
see what happens. There's only one way, right? There's only one way to find out. So that's super cool. So I'm looking forward then to doing some yoga classes at some point, hopefully, and working together on that.
Well, I'm coming to London end of July for a couple of weeks. So if you're around, we'll do a yoga class. I'll find a studio.
May that'd be amazing. Maybe you can introduce me to that world. I've been meaning to do it for so long and just never really got down to it.
Happily, yeah, definitely.
Cool. Wow. So you touched on AI very briefly. Obviously, when it comes to content, AI has been massively changing, disrupting, doing things. So we're going to get onto that. But maybe we can start by going back and can you walk us through kind of just what your experience has been of the content world, given that you've been in it since 2013, 14, 15, something like that, right?
Yeah, more or less around there.
So it's been about 10 years, which, when you stop to think about it, wow, a decade. That's time. Yeah. How's it changed over time?
Yeah. I think my first exposure to the content world was I was an intern for Nike in Berlin for an event, and they needed a native English speaker. This was during university. They needed a native English speaker to just double check all of the captions for the social media coverage that they were covering with this 10K women's run. And straight after university, I went to work for a social media marketing agency. And they were among the first to, thank them or not, really create these influencers and create social commerce. So
wow, very cool.
They launched Marc Jacobs' tweet shop, which was a pop-up tweet shop that you could go into and you could exchange tweets. Images were worth more, videos were worth more, tweeting to a hashtag, depending on the amount of followers you had, and things like that would depend on the gifts that you would be given from this Marc Jacobs tweet shop. So it was the beginning of it all, of like,
that's brilliant,
social currency and what it was. And I was with them, through the launch of Snapchat, Instagram, all of these things growing, and it was us figuring out how we could utilize that for businesses.
Because it was literally on the ground, in-person, physical spaces doing that before these platforms existed.
And they were having to show you, hey, look, I did the tweet.
That's brilliant.
Like, these are my followers. So it was like literally like a physical exchange. It's come so far.
Mm-hmm.
Things have really changed, and I think that it's changed because of technology. It's changed because markets have become oversaturated, or there's been people have grown tired of seeing certain things. Content at its root is storytelling. Content at its root is sharing experiences. and it's always been that, and I have no doubt they will always continue to be that. And so actually this year I'm hopefully releasing a course on the art of storytelling, which is a course for writers, and I want to enable people to be able to tell better stories, and I'm giving them some real tactical things that they can take away and say this is going to enable them to tell better stories or create better characters, create better plots, write better for businesses, relate better to brands, sell more in copy, not in verbally. I'm not great at that one. But it's all about storytelling. It always has been. I think it always will be. So when it comes to AI can replicate a story as much as possible, but AI has never been through an experience, a real life experience. And I just, even how convincing it is, I know that there's going to be a certain amount of bias to people reading AI work, and I know that AI is not going to be able to always publish without stating that it's been written by AI. So there is going to be bias around this content from at least our generation and up. Maybe in the future it's not going to be such a thing, but for real storytelling, no matter how great it is, your sentiment towards reading something that was put together in seconds by a machine, as opposed to a story that has been put together via real human experiences over the course of hours, days, months by a human, which one are you going to go for? I think we're going to have a negative sentiment towards AI written content for a long time yet. So in terms of business and the way that we write, I'm really trying to differentiate what humans can do and what AI can do. Not that one can do one better, but how we can do it differently. And I'm trying to differentiate that and sell that as two different business offerings. So we have AI assisted content and we have human written content now. And that's two offerings that I'm trying to create and work with. And then I'm really trying to showcase what humans can do and what AI can do and the price point that those come at. And I'm just a little bit reluctant to go headfirst into AI. And I think a lot of people are, given how volatile it is, how drastically it's changing. People are waiting. And for now, they're still going for human content. And I think they will continue to do so for an extent. We'll see how AI evolves, and it's just a waiting game, really. But in some cases, it means that people are reluctant to invest in human written content because they're waiting for AI to become more accessible. But then there are others that are like, I can't wait that long. So we'll see how it plays out. I have no doubt that even if AI is writing better than humans or whatever, there will be bias towards the stories it's telling because they're not real at the end of the day. No matter how convincing they are, we know in our heart as we're reading those stories that they're not real.
But how will people know if it's written by AI or a human? And so if somebody thinks it's written by a human, would that not be enough for them to feel like that is written by a human? As in, unless they were told that's written by an AI.
I don't think companies like Google and these big content sharing platforms essentially are going to sit down and let people publish AI content freely without some kind of stamp that this is AI written content. I don't think they're going to do it because it just wouldn't work in their favor. So I think there is going to be laws that will form or regulations that will form that will mean that AI content has to be identified up top. And that will then induce the bias that will come with it. There's no way that we would allow AI only content to be published and to not be flagged. People need to know.
Why do you think that would matter to Google though, or those big corporations? I mean, I personally see the value, obviously, in stamping things in different ways. I see the value in that. I also see the argument that if it gets so good where you can't differentiate between it and a human, then why does it matter? But then there are these two sides of the argument. But then there's the other thing, which is from a Google standpoint, business standpoint, why do you think it matters to them whether
I think it matters in terms of ethically, people will be lying to other people, saying that it's written by
Claiming that that's them, yeah.
humans and it's written by AI. I think, secondly, Google and SEO and pay-per-click ads and all of this stuff, there's so much money on the line that they could be losing. People invest so much money in other Google-related talent, in other Google-related services, that I think it will be in their best interests in terms of revenue to differentiate between human and AI written content, because they still want human content to rank. If other AI tools can provide a quick answer, then people will go to AI for those quick answers. But if people want to read stories and read experiences and comparisons, or like true human interactions, then maybe they'll go to Google. So I think there's a way yet. And I think that these brands are going to have to differentiate what's from what.
And that's a very compelling argument. And you mentioned about the difference between AI content and human content, and you mentioned that you work with both, which is really cool. What do you see right now as kind of like the main difference between human produced stuff and AI produced stuff? Because I mean, I've been using, for example, Chat GPT and Midjourney and all that stuff for quite a while now, and using it to write stuff, using it to. I honestly don't publish anything written by AI personally, because I just feel like that's fake. Like it doesn't align with me. If I'm going to write stuff on LinkedIn or write posts or produce things, it's going to be my original thought. Otherwise, why would I do it just for the sake of doing it?
Yeah.
But what I have been thinking about is prompting could be a really cool way to get the AI to write cool things. So like the skill can be in how I prompt the AI to write me a really cool piece of something. And then I'd always say this post was written by an AI, so that people know that that's not, there are posts I post that are mine, there are posts I post that are written by AI, and that's fine, right? But personally, I can see a little bit of that, and there are other people I've spoken with who can definitely see a lot more of the following, and that is that you can kind of tell when something's written by ChatGPT. The language is a bit
off.
It's a bit off. It's a bit too not formal, but trying to contextualize too much. I don't know how to explain it, if you know what I mean. But
It's
I feel
not human. It's not
there's a
human.
difference. Yeah.
We can identify what's written by humans still and what's written by ChatGPT. I think AI has such a long way to go, and it takes such a huge amount of prompting and editing to get to where we want it to be, to make it sound like it's from us. I was in a Slack community a few weeks ago, and someone said, "Hey, I'm looking for recommendations. I have to do a team meet in Barcelona, in a Barcelona community group. What does everyone recommend?" And one of the community managers of this Slack group clearly copy and pasted a ChatGPT response, and everyone absolutely tore him apart for it, because it's like, it was so obvious. Did you really think that was going to fly amongst a community of marketing people? No, of course not.
I kind of want you to read it out loud now, but I'm not going to make you do that.
I know I couldn't, but it's AI's just got so far to go in that respect. People don't have the time to prompt it and edit it. At that point, you may as well have just employed a human or someone to do it for you. It's not, for as much as it's streamlining the bulk, it requires a lot of admin work on either end, and that's what is a big differentiator at the moment. Now, of course, it's going to get smarter. Of course, it's going to learn quicker. Of course, it's going to write better. But you said it yourself. You want to publish stuff saying this is written by AI and this was written by me. Now, if I had those two options, why am I going to waste my time reading an article by AI when I know I can go to AI and get a more defined answer of the solution that I'm looking for? I'm going to go to the article written by you, because I want to hear about your experience, because I want to hear about what you've been through. And AI will never have been through what us humans have been through. And that's what makes us connect and helps us connect to each other, is our experiences, sharing them, and storytelling with them. AI's never been through any human experience, and it never will. So no matter how much it writes about it, if we know it's still AI writing, it's not interesting to us because no one's experienced it. It's made up. But your experiences are not.
I think there's an art side of it though, for me personally, where I look at art that is produced by AI and I think, damn, that's good. And this could be art, this could be textual in the text form as well. So like a bit like the creativity of, I know it's not creativity. I know that it's basically just statistical models. You know that the AI knows that, oh, these words sound good together when they're put in this sequence. 95% of the time or whatever. And so so I understand that, like, fundamentally there isn't really that much creative things. There aren't that many creative things happening there. But maybe it's just the way our brains are built. Like I look at it sometimes and think, like, damn, that's really cool. The fact that this machine can do this is pretty cool. And then more so with the art, like Midjourney is just art. We're not sponsored by Midjourney, by the way. Maybe after this they will sponsor us something. But damn, honestly, like I use it all the time now for my presentations and things like that. Just exactly what I want. I just type it in and get exactly what I want and put it in the presentation. Right? It's pretty cool. But there is magic to it. There's magic. We've built this machine that can do that, right?
Again, art is so down to your opinion.
Yeah.
And there's a certain amount of, again, bias you have. Yeah, that's amazing, but it's written by AI. I know someone spent hours painting that, and the amount of thought and heart that went into it from another human just makes me value it that much more. Even though I think AI art looks incredible, wow. Do I want to print it and put it out put it up on my home? I don't know, because there was no human behind it. So I think we're going to have this bias towards it. But I also think all these roles are going to change. I think that if we were to watch this podcast back in 10 years, we'll be laughing at ourselves of how we're 100%. Trying to predict how it's going to go.
Yeah. Well, no, we have, we don't know. Nobody knows.
It's going to create it will create and eradicate hundreds of thousands of jobs.
Yeah, most likely.
Our world is entirely going to change.
Yeah, that's the hope. That's exactly the hope. The more I look into it, the more I listen to people who are real experts in this, the more that I realize that I think we're very far from AGI or any form of general intelligence. So I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not that worried about, like the AI wiping humans out or anything like that.
No.
However, replacing a lot of jobs, yes, but creating more jobs that we can't think about, sure.
Yeah.
A friend of mine was telling me the story where, I think I mentioned this on a previous episode as well, where very quickly, back in the day, big consulting firms used to have a design team that would design slides for you. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to present something to a client, you would go to that team and be like, hey, I need to do X, Y, Z. Can you prepare the slides? And they would draw the slides out and then print them out for, like, put them into this thing and then print them out for, like, they design them physically and then print them out and whatever, so you can go and present the slide to the person that you're speaking with. And then PowerPoint came along. So all those teams and all those consulting firms, well, goodbye, don't need this anymore, right? However, many more jobs were created, many more things came out of it. And that's a very small example, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. No one could have predicted that no one could have predicted content writing, like, social media management as a concept. Can you imagine someone coming up with that back in the 90s, right?
Like the role of an influencer. Can you imagine someone trying to explain that to someone 30 years ago? Like, you're going to get paid to take a photo and post it, and it just is not a concept. And I think in 30 years' time, I'm not going to be able to keep up with all these new roles. No. Hopefully, I'm just going to be teaching my yoga, writing my books, and living a peaceful life is all I want to do.
Yeah. No, of course. I mean, yoga will be a massive part of that. So okay, that's really cool. So on the AI content stuff, I think I wanted to get your view on it, since given that you're in this area, given that you've been working in it. But it sounds like the demand is very much still there for human stuff, human written content, human stuff, not the machine stuff, the human stuff for the human written content. And the other thing that I heard a lot of people talk about is how GPT, ChatGPT, whatever other tools are out there, are pretty good for the kind of like day-to-day small things like communicating by email or doing whatever. But when it comes to actual copywriting, then there's basically no replacing us just yet. At
Just
least.
yet. Yeah. I think it's definitely going to trim the fat off of the copywriting industry. I think writers are really going to have to step up their game to compete. I think that you know, your standard listicle blog articles that are run-of-the-mill hitting SEO goals are just not going to fly anymore. People are going to want to look for real, authentic experiences that someone has gone through and is reporting on. I think that's a big thing for the future of writing, is people are going to have to play up to their own experiences and their own history more, and write from their own voice more. I think a lot of people are trying to adopt a brand voice that, to be honest, we haven't trained ChatGPT that well, because the level of the way we've been writing over the past 10 years has not been entirely personal. It's been very brand driven and very generic a lot of the times. So if ChatGPT is going off of what it has on the market at the moment, it's not that great. So I'm kind of excited to see the new era of writers emerge to try and beat ChatGPT and what can they offer, and to see this level of human writing evolve, because I think it's really going to push us to write better or write differently than what we've had so far.
And that makes a lot of sense, man. I mean, one of the things that I've really not enjoyed, I've played the game because the game is the game and the game has rules, and to win in the game, you've got to play the game, right?
Yeah.
But there's so much content out there that says the exact same damn thing because of just optimized for SEO.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, gosh, it's just a pain, man. So
yeah.
But I understand why it's done. It's because, you know, there's the SEO game, and you've got to play it as a business. Otherwise, you're not competing on every front or where you should be competing, perhaps. But maybe it's time for the rules of that game to change. Like,
it's going to change,
right?
100%.
Okay,
and that's what I'm figuring out at the moment. That's what I'm figuring out, is if we're not writing so strictly for SEO and you know, we need to be better than ChatGPT. What do these articles look like that are going to resonate with modern day readers and are still going to rank? And we're trying to find that sweet spot now. So I'm really enjoying how much it's pushing us. For all the fear that it's given me, I'm enjoying how much it's pushing us, because we have some really cool clients coming through the door. And it's like, okay, how can we get these guys ranking? But also, how can we beat whatever ChatGPT can offer these clients, can offer their readers? And so that's what we're trying to find, is like, okay, let's bring that humanness in. Like, one of our clients is last minute bookings in London for bars and restaurants. Okay, cool. Let's get ourselves into these bars and restaurants. I'm going to go take photos. I'm going to sit. I'm going to meet the staff. I'm going to, you know, drop names, drop dishes, drop stuff that is not online, stuff that I can't research online. I'm going to call them up. I'm going to ask for a video tour. Like, what can we still do as humans that ChatGPT can't, because it's limited to a digital realm? Let's get offline, and then let's report that back. So that's what we're doing at the moment.
That's really cool.
I'm excited for it. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it does sound really exciting, and that kind of differentiator between being in the real world, in the physical world. I mean, it's all real, but being in the physical world versus the digital world. You're now making me think of how all of this is going to be disrupted yet again in the future when augmented reality becomes the norm.
Yeah.
And then the AI has access to all of that, right? Because that becomes part of the digital world. It's like, it's nuts.
But not at the $3,999 price tag that Apple have currently got it on. I think we're okay for a while.
That's pretty insane. Yeah, it is pretty expensive, I think. But I think Mark Zuckerberg was talking about this the other day, not the other day rather, but like sometime in the last few weeks with Lex Friedman. I think he was with Lex Friedman on the podcast. And they were talking about this and how, like, that price range is just the kind of like the high end version of this, but there will be kind of the lower end side of things that will come out, but also it will get better over time because like it's still early
As
days,
Apple
very
does,
early days. Yeah,
right?
very early days.
It's going to get more accessible. It's going to get cheaper. It's going to get better.
Yeah.
I think one flop that they did was they sold it for businesses, and they sold it for like, now you can have your Zoom meeting from your bedroom. No, that's not why I want to buy a VR headset. I want to play games. I want to watch movies. I want to interact with stuff. I don't want to have a more productive business meeting. Like, that's not what I'll be spending my money on, So I think they marketed it wrong to build enough hype. No business is going to be like, wow, now we can have floating heads in our meetings around our kitchens. No, it's just
it's
what
pretty
we're
expensive.
excited about.
Yeah. That's a really interesting point. Maybe it's because of the price tag, and maybe it's because you have to maybe isn't the battery life 2 hours or something, 2 or 3 hours?
Yeah, you have to plug it in.
So you have to be plugged in. So like, you realistically are going to be sat at your desk using it. That's basically like the approach here.
I'll just use my laptop.
So, yeah, exactly. Although with that being said, I mean, that is the future of computing, right? Is the, basically laptops. I don't know when this will happen, but at some point, probably laptops will become obsolete at some point.
Yeah.
Soonish.
And people will be like, you carried that around?
I know. This is such a weird thought that, like, to us, it's like, oh, laptops, yeah, that cool thing. And then soon it's just going to be like, yeah, just glasses.
Yeah. I mean, there's a long way that tech is going to go, and we're going to experience a lot of it.
It's an exciting time to be alive, man.
Yes.
It really is. Yeah. On that note, thank you so much for coming. It's been a real pleasure speaking, man. And thank you for sharing the stories and everything that you're doing, DSLX. All the work that you're doing there is fantastic. Can't wait to share this with everybody.
Yes.
And if people wanted to find out more about what you guys do or what you do personally and your yoga stuff, what's the best way for them to check you out? Is it LinkedIn, your website?
Yeah. Website, dslxcontent.com, LinkedIn, just my name, Ray Slater Berry, and yoga stuff. Hopefully I'm going to be doing more of on Instagram as well. So Ray Slater B on Instagram. So meet me there. I think I've made it pretty clear after this call, I'm trying to do more human things, and I've kind of thrown the business pretense out the window. So
I love it.
Whatever channel.
I love it, and I love that we're in a world now where we can say human things and that we kind of know what you mean by that. As in, it's brilliant.
What's happened?
Ray, mate, we're going to leave links in the description for everybody. Again, I want to thank you and thanks for your time. And hope you have an incredible time in Barcelona and hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Mo. It's been a pleasure, actually. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. We hope that you liked the episode. This podcast was sponsored by QFind, a hiring platform that matches candidates with jobs and employers based on many factors that ensure longer-term alignment. It goes way beyond package and salaries and takes into account much, much more than that to ensure a happy working environment for everybody. To find out more about this podcast and to see further releases, we'll be announcing them at the @qfinds.io Instagram page, as well as on the qfinds.io website, as well as from my own personal Instagram page and my own personal LinkedIn. All information you need that we spoke about in the podcast or this information mentioned here will be mentioned below in the description. So take a look, visit those links, and if you like anything or want to get in touch, please do. And lastly, stay tuned for more. Have an amazing week ahead of you.